Welcome to day 5 of the Fusion training. Today we're going to discuss circular patterns, trim features, and extend features. And we're going to draw this 96 millimeter flat bracket. This is going to be a continuation of how we place different features such as these holes, how we get them in a specific arrangement, a specific diameter, and then a shortcut way to make all of this a lot faster than drawing each individual piece. So this is what we're going for. It's just a flat bracket. It has 5 through holes, and then we have these different bolt hole arrangements for each different section. And I want to make the drawing for this. You'll learn how to do this a little later on. So here's the general overview. So this bracket is 27 millimeters wide. The length will be determined by the spacing. You'll see how that comes up. Between the bigger holes, which are 8 millimeters in diameter, it's 16 millimeters to center between each one of these 5 holes. And then we have 8 holes that are 3.75 millimeters with a 16 millimeter PCD around the edge. On both ends, and then 4 holes that are 3.75 with a 16 millimeter PCD around the center hole. And then I think the bracket is 2 millimeters thick. Let's see real quick. And what I'm working with now is the drawing feature of Fusion. It is 2 millimeters thick. This will be a demonstration we'll do later on. Alright, so here's our overall dimensions of our bracket. This is what we're going to make, and let's jump into it. So we're going to start our drawing off. We are using millimeters for this particular drawing, so we're going to leave that the same. It is a part drawing, not an assembly, so this will be the same. So we're just going to go on and save it. Remember, save first. And call this one the 96 millimeter flat bracket. And make sure you are in the correct folder. Get out of, there we go. I'll move it in a second. Alright, so 96 millimeter flat bracket units are set up. We're ready to go. So we're going to start off with a sketch. So we're going to create sketch. We're going to continue to use the XY plane. And we're going to use the origin as the very center of this piece. So we're going to pick the origin to be right in the middle of this particular hole right here. Now there are 5 holes that are 8 millimeters in diameter, 16 millimeters apart. The general overall plate. So we'll get started with that. So let's start from the very beginning. We're going to draw a circle. So we can click on this right here. This is the center diameter circle. We can come to create, hover over circle, and go to center diameter, or we can type the letter C. Any of those would have been fine. And we're going to draw an 8 millimeter hole right here in the center. This is going to be the center of our part. Now, we need to create the other 4 holes that you see here. We have 1, 2, this is the one we just drew, 4, 3, 4, and 5. Now they're 16 millimeters apart. I could very easily, especially as simple as this bracket is, we could just create a line, do a construction line. Remember, this should be a shortcut of X. Hover over the center, see the blue box appear. Means I'm latched into the origin. Go 16 millimeters over. Make sure that the blue parallel line is showing there, so we're directly across. Type in 16. And that now becomes the center of my circle for the next one. So I click on center diameter circle. This point of the end, where the blue box is, and then draw another 8 millimeter line. Notice I didn't turn off construction, so it's in a dashed line. I'll fix that in a second. So we'll click on this, turn it off. I could do that, and I could create all 5 circles. As simple as this drawing is, that would work. But I want to show you a feature. So I'm going to get rid of all these. We're going to come over here to create, and we're going to go to rectangular pattern. So I'm going to click on that, and it says which object do you want to create the pattern with. We're going to click this circle. And then it's asking for the directions. We're going to go in this direction, and notice as I pull, it's creating 3 circles and the spacing is changing. I want to do 5 total. And then the distance between them is going to be 16. And we need to change the extent, this distribution to extent, which means all of them are within 16 inches, versus spacing, which means they're 16 inches apart. Or 16 millimeters. We're in millimeters right now. And notice how everything went to one direction. This would work. I specifically wanted this circle to be in the middle, so I'm going to come to direction and do symmetric. And notice that it put 2 holes on one side, 2 holes on the other. They're 16 millimeters apart, evenly spaced in both directions. So that is especially when you get into larger drawings, a lot of components, the rectangular pattern is a lot easier to do. So once we do that, we've selected which object we wanted to do, that we want to do spacing rather than extent. 5 of them symmetrically on both sides, 16 millimeters apart, and then hit OK. And there's my first part of my drawing, my 5 center circles. Now for the next part, we're going to do these 8 holes right here. If we look at the drawing, those holes are 3.75 millimeters in diameter, and they're on a 16 millimeter PCD. Pitch circle diameter is what that references to. So I'm going to come out here to the end, and I'm going to pick the center diameter circle. Again, you could go to create circle center diameter. You can press the letter C or click it right here. I'm going to change my construction line. I want it to be a construction line because this is going to be where the holes are placed. Now PCD is a pitch circle diameter, so it is a circle with a diameter where the center point is going to land for all of those objects. So hover over the center of this outer hole, make sure the blue circle appears, click it, and then drag out. And then we're going to type in 16. Now it's a construction line. Remember from a previous video, we use construction lines when we do not want to extrude them. And this is going to be where all of those circles are going to land. Now I'm going to turn the construction line off, and this is a shortcut of X, by the way. And then come back up here and draw another center diameter circle. And then I'll show you a little cheat that works most of the time. I want to put this directly at the top of this circle. Now notice when I hover over it, the X appears, means I'm latched onto the line, the circle that's there. But it doesn't tell me where the very, very top is. But if I come down here to this center, usually if you hover over it, the blue appears, and then drag up. Notice the blue vertical line that's appearing. And then when the X appears, that is the absolute top of the circle. So I can click right there, I drag outward, and if you remember from the drawings, it should have been 3.75 millimeters, and hit enter. Now, there are 8 holes, evenly spaced. I could do the math and determine the angles and draw a bunch of lines, but the easier way to do it would be to come to create, and then we'll go to circular pattern. So we click on that. Now it says which object. Notice this one's blue. So which object do you want to create a pattern with? I want it to be this circle right here. So I click it, and then I need to come over here and change this, because if I keep clicking objects, it's going to keep adding them, and we don't want to do that. So we're going to change the center point, or select the center point. Now here's a neat one. I can go down here. This is the center. I can click this little white dot. That works, but you can also just click the circle that it's on. Any of those that have the same center point will work. I'm going to click this outer PCD circle. And then notice 3 of them appear because the quantity is 3. If you remember from the drawing, it was 8. So I want 8 of them to be there. And then you can change distribution. Right now it's all full 360 degrees. That's what we want. So we're going to hit OK. And notice there are my 8 perfectly spaced circles on a 16 millimeter PCD. I'm also going to throw in another function today. We're going to do the mirrored function. I don't think we've used that yet. So I have to duplicate this right here, all 8 of these, on this circle. So notice it's on both ends. And a simple way to do that, I've already done it over here. I'm going to mirror it. I'm going to create a mirrored image on the other side. And the way we do that is we come to Modify. We click on Modify's drop-down menu. And actually it's a Solids menu would be there, but for sketches it's in the Create. Come to Create, come down to Mirror, and then it says Select the objects. Now I could just hover over all of them, will be fine. It just selects the center circle too. And then the mirror line, which I have not created, so I'm going to have to go back and create it. I need a point, a reference point. Since I chose the origin as my center, I can turn the origin on. This is a cheat, it's good to know. I want to select this green line, and notice I can't pick it, but that is the y-axis maybe. Yeah, y-axis. If I come over here to origin and I turn the origin on, notice the green line now appears. This is a cheat you'll use later on in other examples when things get kind of complicated. So I've turned the origin on, so now I see, if I rotate this, you'll see the other 3 or 4 squares we were selecting the original sketch to. And then I have the x-axis, y-axis, and z-axis. Now I'm only worried about the y, so I'm going to select that as my mirror plane, and notice when I click on it, I have these circles. This is my mirror point, and it has now duplicated it on the other side. So there's the 8 holes there. Once you've done this, hit OK, and now it's there. So I have a circular pattern that I use to create the 8 holes, a 16mm PCD with a construction line, and then I mirrored that to the other side. Now the next step would be to draw these 4 holes here, and there's a lot of ways in CAD to accomplish things. We're going to use the center circular pattern again and do the same thing we did on this one. So we'll come in here to the bracket. Because it's only one, I'm just going to go on and draw a circle. I'm going to select the construction line. You can also press the letter X. We'll do the same thing. Hover over the origin, and then draw another 16mm PCD. Hit enter. Then I'm going to turn the construction line off to another center diameter circle. And if you remember the cheat of how we get this top portion up here, it's actually latched onto the origin, so that works out good. Or remember, I can hover over the center and then drag up, and the blue line will appear. Either way, this is the very, very top. Click, drag outward, and then type in the 3.75. Next, we'll come over to Create. Drop down menu to Circular Pattern. Which object? Always follow the dialog box. Dialog box will walk you through each thing that you need to do. Since the object is the blue one, that means that's what I'm selecting. This circle here. And then the center point. Again, I could click the white physical center point or either of these 2 circles. Either one's fine. I did the circle last time, so I'll do the dot this time. And then how many of them? There were 4. Remember from there, it's 4 equally spaced. I turned it off. Let me go back. So create circular pattern. That's my object. That's my center point, and I want 4 of them equally spaced. And then we hit OK, and there they are. So if we look at it, there's my 5 big through holes that were 8mm, my 2 ends that had 8 3.75mm circles on a 16mm PCD, and then in the center we had 4 3.75mm circles on a 16mm PCD. So we got all that. Now we just need the bracket itself, the outer dimensions. Now notice it's 27 millimeters wide, and then the length is determined by these 2 curves right here. Now I want to show you actually, I'll show you this right here because we're going to use the trim function. Notice the radius of this is 13.5, which is exactly half of 27. And that's correct. So the center of this becomes the end of this flat line. So that's what I'm going to show you now. So to create this curve first, let's go back to our drawing, and we're going to do a 27 millimeter circle on this end right here. So we're going to click the center of that one, the very end, and we're going to draw a 27 millimeter circle. And then we're going to do the same thing on this side. Do a 27 millimeter circle. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a line. Shortcut is L. So we'll click on the line and then hover over the very, very top of this. Now notice again I can't pick the very top. So what we're going to do is we're going to hover over the center position, pull up. And if I go high enough, you'll see the blue line that's appearing. And then when I touch the edge of the circle, it locks in. So when I do that, we'll click it. And then you'll see the tangent symbol pop up here in a second. This is a constraint. That means it only touches the circle at one point. That's what we want. Once that highlights up, click it. And then we do the same thing on the bottom. Now since it's a singular line, I'm just going to draw it. I could also mirror it, either one. So I can come down here, latch on to that bottom corner. And notice if I move my mouse a little bit left and right, the X stays the same. That means I'm locked directly vertical. Notice when you're not in vertical, the X will move with it. So make sure that happens. Click there, come over, tangent point, and click here. And then we've got our general shape. We're going to do some trim work as the next feature. So if I try to extrude this, so you hold up here and watch what I do, and then I'll show you the correct way of doing it. If I try to extrude it, notice I have all of the individual pieces. And I'd rather just extrude it once. Now I could select this and select that and select that. It would work perfectly fine. I type in 2 millimeters and the bracket would be done. In this case it would work, but I want to show you how to use the trim just to clean it up. So in sketch mode, so what I want you to do is come to modify. It's going to be this scissor right here, but we're going to go to modify, come down to trim, shortcut is T. And then if I hover over this edge, notice it turns red. So if I click on it, it disappears. And I'm going to do that on all the parts that are unwanted. So I don't want the ones that go through here. And I'm going to do it on the other side. So anytime you have a line or a piece of a line you don't want, you can use the trim feature to be able to create that. Now notice there's my general shape, same as my drawing. There's my 8 smaller holes on each end, my 5 larger holes in the middle, and the 4 here, and then the overall shape of the bracket. Everything is done. We're going to hit finish sketch, or I could have hit E for extrude. That's the next step anyway. And a warning appeared. Should have caught on to what that was. Let's see if I can make it happen again. Nope. So now I hit E for extrude. I'm going to click this one piece here. And we're in the top view, so you can't see it happen. But if we press 2, I'm going to twist it. You notice it creates a height to it. And then we'll hit enter. I'm going to turn my origin off. So I'm going to come back over here to where it says origin, this little eyeball. Turn it off. And there is the bracket. So that's this 96 millimeter bracket. Those of y'all that are in class, this is one of the brackets for the competition robot for Skills USA. Some of the students already drew these. This is where a lot of the stuff's coming up on the left. You can see a bunch of different objects that they've drawn in CAD, and we're going to make a couple of these too. This is going to be one of the next ones we're going to do. So I wanted y'all to see that. So that was circular patterns, rectangular patterns, trims, and mirror feature to make these a little easier. Alright, so that is the, what is this, day 5 drawing. And again, if you have any questions, always let me know. While we're here, I just want to show you this because we got a little bit more time. You notice that I had made a drawing for it. So those of you who had blueprint class with me, we would have made this sketch by hand. In CAD, it's a little simpler. So once you've made your object, we'll get into what you can do in Fusion other than just design. If we click on this design button here, notice there's design, rendering, animation, simulation, manufacturer, and drawing. So I'll come down here to drawing, and I click from design. It's going to ask me some questions saying, hey, what standards are you in, what units are you in, what size paper are you going to use. Notice a B is a 11 by 17. I want to say yeah, that's your typical 11 by 8.5. Do you want it in landscape, portrait, or rotation? Most of the time we don't even change this, but this is where you can select it and then hit OK. And if you do that, it's going to bring a drawing, and it's placing it as the side view. Notice it's just a single line. And notice that's really small. That's the full width of the plate. I think it is. Let's just see what happens. Yes, that's the full width of the plate. Okay. So I'm going to go back to where the scale was. So when you're here, notice that it's not very wide, but if I come over to scale, and I want to change this, let's try 3 to 1. So it's 3 times bigger than the actual object is. That might be a little too big. Let's go 2 to 1. There, that'll work good. Now, this is the side view, the 2mm thick view. So we're going to click the screen. That's my base view. And then we're going to hit OK. There's a lot of, it's going to pop up as visible edges and see-through transparent. That's what's currently selected. I can make it look like the actual gray object. A couple different things here. Orientation, we're looking at the front view. Let's say I only wanted the top view. That's actually what we started with. So you could have selected the right view, and we'll move that in a minute. I'm going to want to leave it on front because that's how I placed it. And then once you do that, hit OK. Now this right here doesn't make a lot of sense. If you've said blueprint class, you know these are the through holes that have been created in this 2mm bracket. Then if we come over here to the top left and you hit projected view, we click on that and we're going to hover over the view we placed, click it, and then go straight down. Notice there's the plate view. Click the screen and then you hit this little X. If we were doing 3 views, I could come over here and do a 3rd view, isometric view, multiple angles, different things like that. I don't need those for this particular bracket, so all I'm going to do is hover over this little check mark. And there's the drawing. Now to place my dimensions, if you come up here to the dimension feature, and then I can hover over different objects. If we pick this circle, there's the 3.75. If I click this one, that's the 16mm PCD. This one is the 8mm center circle. They are, and then when you dimension it, notice it goes out like this. If I move it over to here, there's a 16mm spacing between the objects. We're going to work with this more later too. I just want to see where, wanted y'all to see where I got that drawing from. Then your overall width, and then the radius of that. That's placing all the dimensions on it, showing you a drawing. Fusion even has an even simpler version. Let's see if I can get it to do it today. Anyway, you can come in here to auto dimensions, and it's starting to put all the dimensions on there, and then you can select how in depth you want this thing to go. It's giving you angles. They were all evenly spaced, so I didn't necessarily need it, but it's saying 45 degrees separation. Still gave me the 16mm PCD, 2mm thick, 91 total. So it popped up all them dimensions very rapidly. This is something we're going to use later on. We get a little further into the class. We start doing the drawings. I'll show you a lot more about this. I just want to show you that today. All right, to get out of the drawing mode, actually just go back to the original drawing itself. So this one. There you go. That is the circular patterns, rectangular patterns, mirror, and trim features. If you got any questions, like always, email me or send me a text. And thanks for watching.